It's a great day to be alive. Welcome to the Dead Jeff Show, Episode 2. I'm Jeff. That's Nick. And before we get started today, I want to say a special thanks to everybody for the overwhelmingly positive response to the first show. We just have a lot of fun here, but we've got a great response, lots of views, lots of comments, and we just want to say from the bottom of our heart, thank you for listening in. Whether it's 4 or 4,000 or 40,000, maybe one day, we are just happy that you've tuned in. Also, I want to say a special thanks to my son Luke for the edits and the production and the maestro, I guess. Is that where we're going
From
with?
here on going forward, I don't want to hear Luke anymore. It's the maestro.
Okay, maestro. Thank you to the maestro, Luke, for all the edits and social media posts. All right, so Episode 2, Cowboys 37, Jets 22. Lots of positive things to take away from this. I'll give a few stats, and then we can do a broad, overview. Dak Prescott, 18 of 29, 237 yards, 4 touchdowns. Javonte Williams, 16 carries, 135 yards, 1 touchdown. Ryan Flournoy, 6 catches, 114 yards. Out of nowhere. George Pickens, 2 catches, 57 yards and a touchdown. Jake Ferguson, 7 for 49 and 2 touchdowns. Quite the banner day for the Cowboys offense. Now, let's just, your thoughts on the game, just kind of some overview, some big takeaways from this game, Nick.
Yeah, I think for me, going into it, when it's been talked about a lot, but when we talk about being down 4 offensive linemen, being down 6 starters, this is a game that under Jason Garrett, under Mike McCarthy, it almost felt like things had to be perfect. If you weren't perfect, if you had guys down, that's a tough uphill climb. And man, did it just not feel like that. Shout out Coach Connor Riley, O-line coach. Really just seems to have these guys dialed in. The next man up mentality, which I've heard you talk about a lot over the last just couple of days since the game. But it really just felt like a different mentality coming out of that team. And then we talked about it a little bit last week, but man, Dak just feels like he is in complete and total control of this offense. He's manipulating offensive line assignments, shifting the line on what he's looking at blitz pre-snap. So man, Dak is playing beautifully. Again, a team you should have beaten, but they looked phenomenal doing it. And with the amount of injuries they had, not what we would see in the previous few years.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that sticks out to you. You said only one starter on offensive line played, and some would say that was the weakest starter of the group. So you playing with 4 backups and your weakest starter, and they held their own. And the thing that I'll say about Dak is, he is masterful moving in the pocket all of a sudden. And I gotta get this on record. I have not been a diehard Dak guy. I've not been a hater, but I haven't been on the Dak bandwagon. But man, I'll just tell you, this year, there's a different focus. There's a different fire in his eyes. So I need to say to Mr. Prescott, Dak, I'm wearing the jersey. I'm on the bandwagon now. I believe in Dak. I have to apologize to Mr. Prescott for not realizing this sooner. Now, I know it's the regular season. I know that people will say, oh, it's the Jets. Oh, it's this or that. But man, he just looks focused. He's slimmer. He seems to be more mature. He's always said the right things at the press conferences. But for me, I think he is definitely showing marked improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a long history, basically since Aikman, of this just hard, fast love-hate relationship with these Cowboys and with the Cowboy quarterbacks, I should say. But yeah, for me, Dak has been somebody that I've always, the crazy thing is he's had growth on almost every level. And this is someone that coming out was talked about as having a tremendous amount of maturity, a tremendous amount of leadership. And yet he still found a way to take another level up in those areas. So a guy that was already doing these things extremely well has found a way to even be better. And just credit to him, man. He's obviously got a tremendous growth mindset. He never feels like he's done learning. And it just feels like him and Shoddy have quickly, and I know Shoddy was here last year, but they just seem to have quickly found a great rhythm between the two of them.
Yeah, and I've been impressed with Schottenheimer, and I'll tell you this, Clayton Adams coming over from the Cardinals, they had a great run game there.
Yeah.
And then he brings him over here to join his staff, and then you talked about the offensive line. It used to be a thing. If we had one or two major injuries, we're not even talking. We had CeeDee Lamb out, we had Turpin out, on the offense as well. Major weapons, and Dak makes Flournoy look like an all
He
pro.
does, yeah.
And there's a lot, but the coaching and the chemistry and the culture just feels different. And I tell you, a lot of these guys don't get the shout outs, but you talked about the offensive line coach. I've never heard of Connor Riley. I had to look up his name just to know who he was. And then, they have assistant offensive line coach. It's Chin Young is his last name. It's like, we don't know these guys, but man, they must be doing a fantastic job behind the scenes. And shout out to the wide receivers coach, Junior Adams, for the work with Flournoy and all the other guys. But it's unbelievable. When Schottenheimer was named coach, I don't know who was excited about that, but it looks like it's a good hire. And each week that goes by, they seem to be building on something. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but Cowboy fans, we have to go week to week with this team. We've had the heartbreak. We've been upset. We've had our hopes built up and crashed. But man, these days we have to go week by week, and we can only talk about and feel with what we see on the field. And we talked last week about this 3-game stretch. They took care of business with the Jets, and the way they did it was promising. Now look, it started off a little rough. The Jets have a long drive and settle for a field goal, and the Jets did some Jets things in this game that were scratching your head. But I saw on Mike Leslie, social media, where he posted first time in Cowboys history, I think since the 70s maybe, that we had a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver in the first half of a game.
Yeah, and think about the dynamic duos that you've had here. You go obviously Urban and Smith, and you go Dez and Zeke, and you can go even T.O., and I think DeMarco was here during that time. I'm not,
But it's Flournoy and Williams that get it done,
yeah,
right? And Javonte Williams, what a find this was.
revelation.
When he was signed last year, and then they signed Sanders, nobody expected this kind of performance. And listen, we got to give them credit when they hit gold here. And as Jerry calls it, a glory hole. That's an oil term. I'm not going to talk about the other meaning, but the oil industry, it's when you strike it rich or hit oil, they call it a glory hole. Well, they hit one with Javonte Williams, and he's just been impressive. Like, it's that run right before the half, and is having the instincts to run towards the sideline because there's only 29 seconds left. But very impressive season so far from Javonte.
Yeah, I think, and look, to your point, right? They signed Javonte, they signed Sanders, and although you got to give credit where credit's due, great signings, they couldn't have been 100% confident, because then, oh, by the way, they go and draft Blue and Maffa in the draft, right? So although we think we've got something good with these two veterans, we're going to go add a little insurance policy with Phil and with Jaden, which, look, that's just the insurance policy. That's doing your due diligence. I get it. But I think if you go back in time and you tell them, all right, front office, Javonte Williams going to be on pace for 1,500 yards and like 13 touchdowns through 5 games, maybe we're going to use that draft capital somewhere else. We're probably not taking 2 running backs, if you know what you know now. So definitely shout out to the front office for making those moves. But clearly they were a little hesitant in knowing that for sure this would work out. I think all of last season, Javonte Williams rushed for 730 something yards. He's sitting at a little over 500 right now through 5 games.
Yeah, and he was injured. He came off an injury, but what I'll say is that sometimes when these moves happen, you feel a certain type of way about it, but then every once in a while they hit the mark with one, and you have to give credit where credit's due. And Javonte Williams has been a revelation this season, and he runs hard, and it's consistent. He's always falling forward, and I think that that's something we haven't, really had here. We had Rico, who had a good season last year, but the consistency with which he runs has been impressive. And let's talk about Ryan Flournoy. You hear a lot about his work ethic and how he worked with Dak in the offseason. And, the receivers coach we talked about earlier just has him ready to go. And he got his opportunity and he showed us something, right? And I know Tolbert did a little bit of this last year, but this was really impressive from Flournoy. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really did. And here's the other thing. I was in kind of reading about him just a little bit after the game. Freshman year of high school, he was 5'3", 99 pounds. Hopefully the article I read on that is accurate, but
I think my leg weighs 99 pounds, my right leg.
it might. But 0-star recruit coming out of high school, and in 2019 played through a partially torn ACL at the D2 school he was going to. And so, look, I mean, this is a guy that knows adversity. This is a guy that has been tested time and time again, gets the opportunity to go play in the Senior Bowl and then makes the most out of it. It's no surprise, really, when you know his story, that he gets the opportunity now with some injuries, and he's making the most out of it, man. And a very crisp route runner and a great athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive to watch, and some of those catches, I mean, weren't run of the mill easy catches. They were difficult, and so the game started off a little weird. They get a long drive, and right before the half is when the fireworks started for the Cowboys. Again, it's less than 2 minutes. We score 2 touchdowns, and Brandon Aubrey shows he is human and missed an extra point, but we don't have a nickname yet for Aubrey, or do we?
I like the A-bomb.
The A-bomb. I kind of like automatic, but that's sort of generic. But anyway, we'll keep workshopping the nickname. But he shows he's human. The Cowboys create a turnover. Right before the half. Leo Fowl punches out the ball, and Coach Schottenheimer after the game was talking a lot about, hey, we're punching at the ball. We're trying to create turnovers, and you saw it come to fruition there, and it worked. And then the Jets do Jets things. That next series after that, they weren't trying to do much. It was interesting though, because in the past McCarthy and other coaches wouldn't call timeouts in these situations. There's 40 seconds left, 57 seconds left, whatever it is. Well, Schottenheimer's using his timeout, so he's hey, we're gonna get the ball back because we have automatic Aubrey.
A-bomb Aubrey.
A-bomb. I don't know. Anyway, so that kind of lends to a strategy change.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is, first of all, I don't think the Jets knew what they were trying to do with some of that play
No,
calling.
they didn't.
But I will say, yeah, when you have a genuine belief that my target, especially at the end of a half, is the 50-yard line, because legitimately, I will predict right now, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. If you know, you know.
It's Paul Heyman.
Yeah, that's right. 67 is probably right at his.
Or did you say 6'7"?
Come on,
Come on, man. I'm too old for that.
You're all.
Did you say 6'7"?
You're all over the place right now. You know that?
I know it.
So 50-yard line and in is probably where you're good. So yeah, when you're sub a minute and you've got one timeout, you burn it there if you're shot, because Dak's going to give me a chance.
You've got a weapon.
You've got a weapon, and it's possible. And you talk about
I guess an A-bomb is a weapon, so maybe we need to go with that.
He's coming around. It's not been very long. But it really is. You're right. The strategy change is definite. It's pronounced. And then you go and run a draw with Javonte Williams, and you mentioned it earlier. All I was thinking in my head is there's the Any Given Sunday movie with Jamie Foxx and Al Pacino and Cameron Diaz, and LL Cool J plays Julian Washington. At the end of the game, they run a play called Comanche, and he's running up the sideline, and there's like 4 seconds, and they cut to Pacino, and Pacino's like, get out of bounds, because his character the whole time is selfish, and he's not going to go. There was no shot Javonte wasn't going out of bounds there.
No, I mean, it was smart, right? If I get tackled, I'm going out of bounds. They're going to have to push me out of bounds. If I can't score, I'm going out of bounds. We're going to have time. And it's 29 seconds when they snap the ball, so it's 19, 18 seconds when he goes out of bounds.
It's just it is extremely well coached football. It's situational football.
Yeah, but here's the other thing I liked. He goes out of bounds after the long runs, and we don't settle for a field goal. the very next play, I think it was a touchdown to Ferguson.
That's right. And you said Jets doing Jets things. We're gonna sell out on the run, even though the offense has 18 seconds and no timeouts left. Ferguson sells the play action great. Dak's ball handling, like we've talked about before, dude's so composed. It looks like the game is just slowed way down for him. But the excellent ball fake, Ferguson sells the block and then just slips it, and we call that being call it being butt naked right there, Johnny Ferguson.
Now, wait a minute. Is it butt naked or buck
It
naked?
is butt naked because we used
You
to.
sure about
Yeah, I'm
that?
sure because we
Okay.
used to run the OS.
Maestro, look that up. Is it buck naked or butt naked?
We used to run the OS throwback. You would send everyone to the right, and then
Yeah.
and whatever poor soul, whatever linebacker or safety is responsible for him, would always be the one at fault for leaving him butt naked. You should never be that wide open.
Yeah, I guess if your butt's out, you're pretty
You're
naked.
pretty naked.
Yeah. Okay. Buck naked is an old man term. Butt naked. Oh, so that makes sense. I'm the old man, so I say buck naked, and you say butt naked
That's right.
because you're.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about that long enough.
that
But
definitely.
all right, so here's the thing. We've talked a lot about the offense, and we saw some great things from the defense. And the thing that I love is, Jerry called this when the Micah trade happened. We've got pass rushers here. I can't do a Jerry impression, but he said we've got pass rushers, so we need to trade this commodity to get more players. Well, they showed up this week. Now, I know that's the Jets, but the Jets offensive line is not terrible. It's not the greatest, but here's what I'll say. 5 sacks and it's pressure by committee. And you got everybody getting involved, right? You got Clark and Houston and Fowler and then Digizua.
Izaraku was in there.
Is a rocket. Yeah, so you're getting pressure you know, from committee. And it's kind of what they talked about. And I'll say this, it's the coaching has been a difference maker here. And after the game, Jerry talked about the coaching, Dak talked about the coaching, and then the coach gets up there and says it's the players, right? And so you got a little bit of camaraderie going here, and everybody's giving each other love about when things go well. And I think there is a marked difference in coaching, and you can't say enough about this staff. Some have college experience and very little NFL experience, but and they have a lot of NFL experience on this staff as well. So it's a great blend.
Yeah, great blend, and I think that's anytime you get the kind of pushing off credit everywhere else but where it's being directed, that's a great sign of culture. I think Schottenheimer's done a great job of just getting the guys to buy in. It just looks like they're having fun. And it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, it doesn't matter what your profession is. You don't have to be a professional athlete to know that when you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, that is always going to bring the best out of people.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's been missing on these Cowboys teams for a while. I think McCarthy sold a bill of goods to Jerry. I'm just going to be honest. It's like I watched every play that every snap from the Cowboy season. Well, that may or may not be true, and he might have admitted to that later. But Schottenheimer's a coaching lifer. His dad, Marty. But I think the more we see of him, the more I like him. And it's kind of like this new focus with Dak, whether it's maturing, whether it's becoming a father, whatever it is. You see the fire in Dak's eyes. He is laser focused right now, and he talked. There's a lot of talk about Dak for MVP after 5 games, and the crowd chanting a little bit in New York. The Cowboys fans that were there chanting it, but he is playing like an MVP candidate. But this defense is the biggest improvement from the first couple weeks.
Yeah, week over week, I think that's where you're going to see tremendous improvement. And I will say, I gave Iberflus a little bit of a hard time last week. If the game plan was, I know Justin Fields is going to hold the ball more than he should, and so I'm going to play more man and bring a little bit more of that 5-man pressure with man behind it as opposed to the zone blitz concepts, then it was a very well executed game plan. Obviously, Eberflus has some history with Justin Fields, so he knows him well. And that's always been a knock on Fields, is that he holds the ball for too long.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. So one of the things when okay, we're going to apply more pressure. So that's probably why they gave up more of the longer runs to Brees Hall. It seemed like every time he turned around, it was 14, 15, 18 yards.
No, that's a great point, and I think, again, if you go back, one of the things that have had been, at least on paper, improved was the Cowboys' run defense, but that was also by design. If you're gonna load the box and you're gonna walk a safety down, now you're allowing, yes, you're going to be strong against the run, but against some of these quarterbacks that they've played, now you're leaving your guys on an island. You don't have the safeties over the top. Well, against Justin Fields, Eberflus basically looks like he said, "Okay, Justin Fields, you beat us. I'm going to roll the two safeties over the top, and I'm going to force you to pick apart my defense in a way that I just don't think you can." And he didn't.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, in week one, Jalen Hurts was running all over the Cowboys defense, and here Fields didn't run much at all. And I think that what you're saying is there was gap integrity as far as holding the outside containment, but there was just pressure in his face, and obviously Eberflus knowing Fields, and look, Fields has improved and gotten better, and I'm not sure what's going on with the Jets, but here's the thing: we have to take care of business, and we can only play who's in front of us. In this 3 game stretch, we got the Jets, we got that taken care of. We got the Panthers this week. And the Panthers coming in, it's like, okay, you never know what they're gonna be, but they're starting to put some things together. We got Rico there, who's already been shouting off a little bit about, hey, you guys better be ready for me. A little bit of a revenge game for Rico, but Bryce Young's coming along. They've got 2 young wide receivers there in Carolina.
Elegant and McMillan.
Yeah, and so you just really don't know what to expect. What you hope is that what the Cowboys did against the Jets, they will go and do again against the Panthers.
Yeah, and I think Dowdle certainly, if you needed any, if you're a chalkboard material kind of person, Dowdle definitely gave him that. But look, man, the dude in backup duty, in spot duty for Hubbard, comes in and rushes for 200 yards, and really ran very hard. Looked great.
And he did that here last year.
He did, and he's a hard runner. He definitely doesn't take plays off. Good in blocking and protection as well. Um, but yeah, I think from what Carolina has shown, a little bit of resiliency. I think anyone that is just saying that's a give me, especially in Carolina, it's not in Dallas. I think that's a misstep. I do expect that the Dallas will be favored to win that game, even though it's in Carolina. But I think, just like you said, you took care of the Jets. You were supposed to. I think they'll be expected to beat Carolina. But what we've seen in years past is, just like with the Bears earlier this year, these are some of those games that might, because you got the Commanders coming up after that at home, prime time, 3:30 kickoff. This is a little bit of a trap game with Carolina coming up.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think in the past these are the games that we would stub our toe on or trip up. And I think that with our schedule and with the unknowns on this team, they're kind of right where you thought they would be. If you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, you said, "Oh, they're going to be 3-2 at this point." The Bears you thought would be a win. The Packers you thought would be a loss. Well, right now they're 2-1, and they're right where we thought they would be. But this, you know, stretch here where you got the Panthers and the Commanders, you got to get those 2 wins. And Jaden Daniels played well, and they beat the Chargers. And I think that we got to take advantage of this time, and we need to be 4-2-1 in this stretch. And for me, talking about beating the Jets, well, you got help too because the Broncos beat the Eagles as far as the division goes. They took care of business for us. They had to come back. They were down 17-3, and they beat the Eagles. And then you had the Giants was up 14-0, and they lost to the Saints. So we're getting a lot of help here, and things working our way. And the only thing that didn't go our way was that the Commanders did beat the Chargers. And so this is the part of the schedule where we have to make hay.
Yeah, you have to, and we know, and I've heard you say this a lot of times before. I like the segmenting of the season. You look at it at 3 and 4 game stretches, the expectation that you have there, because I'll tell you, right around Thanksgiving time, before and after Thanksgiving, they've got a really brutal stretch. And so you're exactly right. These are the kind of scenarios, the division games at home, you can't afford to lose. And Dak historically has been great. Dak is historically great at home against the division. And so we hope that that maintains. Maybe you get a little bit of healthy. That probably will be the target for CD to coming back. You probably get Turpin back by then, and then hopefully two or three of those offensive linemen are back. So that might be, Carolina's coming at the right time. You probably don't have to rush any of them back here, especially with how you just looked. And then you go into Dallas against Washington, hopefully getting a somewhat clean bill of health. Who knows when Overshown's coming back, but that will be helpful also. So it could be clicking all at the right time to get ready for the Week 10 bye.
Yeah, you mentioned Overshown, but we need to talk about the defense a little more. Sanborn got a concussion or got in concussion protocol, and then you had James step in for him. And I said a little comment about Sanborn being a little slow last week, but here's the thing: he led the team in tackles the week before. Sanborn did, and James comes in and does the exact same thing. And I think that if you said, "Hey Jeff, what's the biggest concern for you on this team?" To me, it's the linebackers and the safeties, and we talked about it some last week. You got Diggs and Bland; they're going to be fine. And as they play and get healthier, they'll be better. I'm worried about the safeties, and I'm worried about the linebackers. So Overshown coming back will be huge. And I know we have Hooker out, and so we need to get better there, better play from them. And if Eberflus can keep changing things up and scheming, then that would help as well. But you talked about the Panthers next, then the Commanders, then you got two more games before the bye, which is the Broncos at Denver, and then the Cardinals here. And so realistically, let's say you lose to Denver, you could be 5-3-1 into the bye week, and if we said that at the beginning of the year, I think everyone would take that.
Yeah, well, look, the Vegas line on the Cowboys preseason was 7.5. So if you're 5-3-1 going into Week 10, which 8 games or 9 games, that's basically the halfway point now, right? No true halfway point anymore. So 5-3-1 through 9 games. Theoretically, historically speaking, you got to get 9 wins is to feel like you got a shot at the playoffs in that division, probably 10. So 5-3-1 with the schedule they have, that's an uphill climb. But I will say, like the Giants and some of these other teams, that they fight their way into the tournament at the end. And through that schedule, that's what it'll have to be for Dallas. They will have to have not backed into the playoffs. They will have to have earned their way in. They will be battle tested. They will have, put some skin on the wall in terms of dealing with some adversity. And, once they're in, man, with the way Dak's playing, if he can hold on, I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks I'd rather have on my team right now than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, we've already talked earlier about him playing at an MVP level, but the brutal stretch you're talking about is Eagles, Chiefs, Lions for 3 games in a row. It's like, okay, that could be a losing streak, right? So we got to get the wins, put them in the barn, and then hope that we can steal one somewhere. I think for me, I feel better right now than I did at the beginning of the season. Um, and like I said, it's week to week with the Cowboys. You just never know what's going to happen. But I feel a little different. Like I said before, the coaching staff has got them focused and headed in the right direction. And with some people coming back, hopefully CeeDee Lamb, Turpin, Overshown will come back soon, and we'll get some energy from that and be able to go on a little run here before that bye to get us there. And at that point, then it's like the second half of the season is a gauntlet, and then we'll just have to see how they perform.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think the one thing that going into the season, as much as I wanted to I'm not gonna, I'm not rooting for the Cowboys. I'm gonna go to Houston. I just can't do it, right? I'm a Cowboys lifer. It doesn't matter what's going on. Doesn't matter what the record is. I don't know that I felt a ton of hope going into the season. I was, you know, cautiously wanting to watch these games. And I will say now, with the way that Schottenheimer has them playing and just the way that the team looks, there's hope.
There's that hope.
There's that hope. Yeah.
There's that hope, and we know what happens when that hope starts to build.
Yeah.
The expectations come with it, and then we feel like big letdown if they don't get where they need to get to. But listen, we talk about hope, but let's talk about Jerry Jones for a minute. Now listen, I don't mind giving Jerry Jones a hard time on some things, but the video circulated of him flipping off Jets fans
Two finger bandit.
and sort of like him having fun with the Eagles fans. I think this is much ado about nothing. He's clearly having fun with them, right? And I know he's an owner. He should conduct himself with dignity and all that stuff. But this is part of that soap opera stuff that Jerry brings up. But yes, he was giving the double bird to the fans, and they were laughing and giving it right back to him. Matter of fact, that was a response to them giving it to him, and he's smiling and laughing. So I don't know. What say you? I think this is much ado about nothing.
Yeah, no, I come from the Dana White school of sports, top sports figures in their respective sports. You know, I will say this: if I'm a fan and I'm having that interaction with Jerry Jones, that ticket is well worth whatever I paid for it and then some. That's a story they'll be able to tell forever. It did look like they were having a great time, and that's what I mean. To me, man, there's two things that are for sure about sports. It's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, and it's that competitive trash talking. If you're not at least having a little bit of that, then you're missing a piece of it. And yeah, I think for all the flack we can give Jerry, I'd imagine he's probably looking at his 250K well spent.
Yeah, I'm sure he's getting a lot of publicity out of it, and
100%.
like I said, it goes back to that soap opera
That's
stuff,
right.
and we need a little bit of Young and the Restless in our
Got
life,
to.
don't we? Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the soap.
So look, that's it on Jets Cowboys. If you had any concerns going into the Panther game, what would it be?
I think for me it would be the Rico Dowdle factor. I do think that just because anytime you see, and especially against the Cowboys, man, these revenge games against the Cowboys always seem to go in the favor of the player and not the Cowboys. It's not the Cowboys shutting guys down when they come back or Randy
I don't know
Moss.
about Micah, 40-40
That's
tie.
true. That's true. But yeah, I would say Rico Dowdle's one area, and then I really do like Tedero McMillan. I think he's a phenomenal young receiver. I think he runs really, really crisp routes. He gets open, and obviously we'll see what Eberflus does. But if we're going to go heavy zone, I just think he's someone that can have a big game.
No, I think you're right. I think there was some troubling signs about the run game, and if it's true that where they just decided, hey, we're going to put pressure on and we're going to give up some of these runs, but we're going to make Fields beat us. Maybe it's the same strategy with Bryce, and that's the thing that I think you're talking about is if they go in with that same strategy and Dowdle goes for 220 yards, well, that's great if we've got 37 points. And right now the offensive scoring a lot of points. So I think my concern would be, can we shore up the run game and get pressure, right? And I think that might be pie in the sky, but that would be my concern is, okay, were those runs last week given up to Hall just a part of the schematic
Yeah.
deal, or is it signs of trouble? And we'll see this week how they adjust. And again, I'm not going to put anything past this coaching staff because I really have been impressed again. I'll say that. But hoping we'll take care of business against the Panthers. And hopefully y'all don't give Jerry Jones too much of a hard time for the double bird. Now I'm a man of faith, so I don't really give the double bird. But I'll tell you this: it was a funny video, and I think that everybody just needs to relax a little bit. And
Yeah.
what did Rodgers do? He spelled it out.
Oh, yeah.
Just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's the Cowboys. Now look, I'm excited about next week's show because we're gonna do a little NBA preview.
Yeah.
And there's only one team in Texas we need to talk about, and that's the Mavericks. Is there another NBA team in Texas that we need to talk about?
There's the better historical NBA team, but I guess that's open to interpretation.
Well, listen, that was in the past.
Was it?
We are the future. We had the
Who has
first
the more
preseason
recent
game last night. Did you see it?
I
Did you see Cooper Flag out there?
I did. I also saw the Spurs first preseason game.
Are they still in San Antonio?
Yeah, they're still in San Antonio.
I didn't know that. I thought maybe they'd moved.
I can't remember who has
Zimbabwe.
The most recent NBA championship. Is that?
You mean who won last year?
No.
Oh,
between the Spurs and Mavericks.
What are you talking about?
I think the Spurs won in 2014. When was the Mavericks last title?
That's in the past, man. That's in the past. Now look, who's been in the finals the most recent?
That's fair. They did lose the most recently in the finals.
Now look, it's going to be a fun NBA season because we're going to be sparring back and forth about Mavs Spurs. But I was happy to see the Mavs last night and Cooper Flag.
He looks
It's
great. He
preseason,
looks
looked
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm excited next week to get into a little bit of NBA preview for the Mavs and the Spurs, and we may talk about the Rockets. I don't know.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, Kevin Durant's there. But although they did just lose Van Vliet for the year towards ACL in practice.
Well, I
That's
mean,
pretty big.
that's good for us.
That's right, because
Yeah.
that dude's for real.
I don't wish injury on anybody.
No. But it's part of the game, and we'll see how when you pay and you start to build a roster through trade and acquisition and free agency, as opposed through depth, which I think the Spurs and Mavericks both seemingly have done well. That's maybe the area that the Rockets are going to have some questions: is do they have the depth to sustain things like that?
You better take it easy, man. We got to save something for next
No,
week.
we'll save it for next week. But I did have one more thing though. Actually,
no, wait a minute. You're not going to bring up Taylor Swift.
that's absolutely what I was about to do. There was the story that came out that she turned down the halftime show.
Are we sure that she turned it down, or was it, the NFL didn't offer it?
Didn't offer it to her.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and who knows?
She did. She turned it down.
My show says she turned it down.
Why did she turn it down?
My theory is she knows the Chiefs are making it to the Super Bowl, and I want to watch the game. That's my
okay. That's a little far fetched.
Is it?
Yeah. And listen, they got Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny's a WWE star.
Yeah.
So it was very impressive in the WWE.
One of the great entrances of all time in San Juan in Puerto Rico. If you go and watch his entrance,
I've seen it. That was incredible.
That crowd is, and there's something about these non-domestic soiled crowds. And we won't go off on the WWE tangent yet, but I actually love the Bad Bunny halftime performance, and here's why I say that. I think from a visibility standpoint, and obviously Jay-Z and Rock Nation are the ones that are booking these halftime shows. And if you look at the recent history, I saw Tommy Lauren and a couple of other people talking about, well, it's non-American. Puerto Rico is technically a part of America. He is an American citizen.
They got to get their geography right.
They got to get their
history right.
But I will say more than that. The point is, Rihanna did it a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's not American. So I just don't see the all the hubbub about.
Well, I'll tell you this: it's like WWE taking WrestleMania over
to Saudi.
Saudi. That got a lot of people upset. This, I mean, they're not taking the Super Bowl out of America. And listen, Bad Bunny says we only have a few months to learn Spanish to understand his songs. Right?
Duolingo's about to get a huge pop.
I don't know Spanish.
Yeah, Duolingo.
But I don't know. Do you know Spanish?
No.
Okay. What did we find out on Taylor Swift? Did she turn it down? She didn't turn it down and wouldn't do it if she was asked. Okay.
Got a double negative, so does that mean she would do it?
Well, look, hey, it's her prerogative. I mean, she doesn't need the Super Bowl. She's got enough fans. All my daughters are fans of hers, like I said.
Yeah, same with me. That's why I literally woke up at 6 a.m. that morning, and the first question my daughter asked is, have you listened to the album yet? Now, knowing she was going to ask me that question, I had listened to the album, but we'll spare you on the Taylor Swift stuff. But yeah, look, I love Bad Bunny as a halftime show. My wife, it's her favorite artist.
Oh yeah,
she loves Bad Bunny. It's constantly on her playlist, and I think he'll put on a great show.
Well, I seem to watch Bad Bunny in WWE, and watch him on Saturday Night Live. He's pretty funny. I don't really listen to his music. I'm a hip hop guy.
Yeah,
I'm an R&B guy.
You listen to Booker T by Bad Bunny.
I need to listen to that?
Listen to that.
Okay.
See what you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do that homework.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, we thank you for joining us on this episode number 2, and we can't wait to talk NBA next week with you, as well as Cowboys Panthers, and who knows what other stories will break in the meantime. But thank you for tuning in to the Dead Jeff Show, and we'll see you next time. Peace.